Hey good people, welcome again to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time, you're welcome. So in this video we are going to be making this beautiful dress, guys. Join me to navigate around how to make, to cut, to stitch, step by step, everything you're seeing right now. You can see how happy my customer is. Oh god, just stick around and let's do this together. Please don't forget to like. I have my fabric already folded in two, and I have it double, both for the back and for the front part. So I'll proceed now by marking out my measurements. But before I start that, I'm going to be marking out the starting points. So this exact place you see me mark out now, that is where I'm going to be starting from. So any measurement I'm taking is from there. So the full length is 15. You can see I place 14 on that mark, my starting point, because it's off shoulder. So I'm minusing 4 inches and I'm marking out 15. Then for sewing allowance, I marked out 1 inch, making the total length to be 16. So I'll proceed now by marking out my chest line, which I'm using 8 for it. Then for the bust points, I'm going to be using 10. So I'll mark it out now. I'll proceed to the under bust, which is 12.5. So these are my horizontal lines. You can see the first one, I have it, the chest line, CL. I have the bust point, which I tagged BP. Then I have the next one, which is the under bust, then the main length. So checking out the fabric, you see my fabric is folded in two. I have one, then the second one also folded in two. The down one is the one I'll be using for the back parts, and I left about 1 inch allowance for the zipper. So I'm just going to be marking it out like that. You can see just 1 inch, which I'm leaving it for the zipper allowance. Then I'll proceed to the neck. So the wideness of the neck, I'm using 4 inches, and for the depth, I'm going to be using about 2.5 inches. So look at, I just placed my tape rule exactly minusing that 4, then I marked out 6.5. You can just use 2.5 instead of doing that. But then I'll proceed by getting out by marking out the sweetheart neck. Then from that point where the wideness of the neck stopped, I mark about 2.5 to the side, exactly the way you are seeing it. So from there, I'm going to be connecting that point to my chest line point. You can see exactly what I'm doing now. So I'll proceed by marking out my breast span, that is nipple to nipple divided by 2, and is 7. So divided by 2, I have 3.5 plus 0.5 allowance, so I marked out 4. Then under bust, I'm just marking out 3.5. Then the down part, I also mark out 3.5, just only on the bust point that I marked out the 4 inches. So I'm connecting the under bust downward, you can see. Then I'll also proceed by connecting it to the bust point. But since they are not on the same line, it's going to be bent exactly the way you're seeing me connecting it together. Then I'll connect it to the upper part, which is my shoulder part, although there's no shoulder but towards the neck area, exactly the way you're seeing. Then on the under bust, I'm going to be marking out 2 inches. So you can as well mark out 2.5, depends on how big the bust of the fellow. Then upward on the chest line, I marked out 1.5. So I'm going to be connecting that 1.5 to the line, to the chest line. Then under bust line, which I marked 2 inches, I'm going to be connecting it to the bust point, and I'll be cuffing it to the bust point. Then the other one to the chest line. You can see the CL. You can see exactly what I'm doing. So from the under bust, I will just trace it down with my ruler downward like that. So proceed to mark out the circumference of our bust divided by 4. The bust I'm going to be using is 34. 34 divided by 4 I'm going to be marking it out from on the chest line. So I'll mark it out and I will add about 2.5 allowance, because I'm still going to be adding this, stitching these allowances together, the darts together. So I'm leaving about 2.5. So at the end I'll still have some allowance left inside. Then under bust circumference is also 28 divided by 4. So I'm having 7. I'm going to be marking out the 7 first. Then I'll take my tape rule and also mark out what I have inside, which I'm going to be cutting out later. So I'll mark it again after the 7, then adding about 2 inches allowance. So I'll also mark it. Then I'll connect it upward and downward, just connecting the points together. And I'll proceed now to cut out. Just take a look at how I'm cutting it out. Remember, I'm cutting both back and front together, so I just want the back first. So I've cut out the starting point, you can see, then the main length I have. You can see exactly how I'm cutting it. Then I'm going to be separating the back, but before that I will just open up the zipper allowance. So I'll separate the back, I'll keep it aside, okay? So on the back part, so that I will not be having excess allowance, I'm going to be removing about 0.5 to 1 inch from the side of the back side. Okay, then we'll proceed now to cut out the darts on the front part. This is why I removed that from the back side, because I didn't cut out this exact part from the back, so I just removed it from the side. You can see I went ahead to also cut out the neck. I want it sweeter and I cut it out, so you can see what I have for the back. So I'm just marking out because my fabric is almost the same both front and back. After cutting out the front, I'll place the front on the back side to cut out the neck. I don't want the neck to be the same deep as the front, so I just cut out about 1.5. So you can see what I have for the front, then for the back also. And now I also went ahead to cut out my lining. Having done that, let's proceed to the down part of this gown. So this is how I'm going to fold the fabric, because I'll be cutting both the zipper side, which is the back side, with the front side together. So I folded my fabric in 4. Then I left some space for the down part, which is for the zipper allowance, and I just marked out my starting point. Then I'm going to take out the full measurements, but I'm going to be minusing about 15 inches from the starting point. Remember, I already have 15 inches for the upper part of it, and the full length is about 57. So I'm going to be marking out 57, exactly what I was doing down there, marking out 57, and extra 2 inches allowance for folding it up. Then I came back again to the starting point and I just labeled it W, which is the part I'm going to be marking out my waist. Then I came down about 10 inches for my hip line, and I came down again about 23 inches for my knee measurement, between 22 and 23. So this differs. You can decide to measure it while taking your measurements, and that's exactly what I'm marking out there. Then I labeled it N, which is my knee line. Don't forget, I have about 2 inches marked out for the zipper allowance, so I'm just going to be marking it out with my ruler. Then we'll proceed now to take the circumference measurement. So for my waist, I divide the circumference by 4 and I marked it and I added my allowance. You can choose to add about 2 inches allowance. Remember, we're still going to be putting waist darts. Then for the hip, I did the same thing. The circumference divided by 4. Then I added my allowance. You can put 1.5 allowance, 2 inches, 2.5, depends on how much allowance. Then for the knee parts, I also marked out I measure what I have on the hip line minus 2 inches, and this differs. Then for the down part, exactly what I marked on the knee part, that's what I marked on the down part. I often see some straight gown, the down will be very free, not fitted. So this is what you should do. Just take the measurement of your hip. You can minus 2 inches or 1.5. Depends on how big the person is. Just take a look at the towel of the person. If it's very big, you can minus like 1 inch or 1.5 or 2 inches. So I just went ahead to minus 2 inches, and that's what I use for the knee line and also for the down part. If you use this method, believe your gown is going to come out very straight and not something big at the down part. Then I went ahead to just cut it out. So after cutting it out, this is me just showing us exactly where I'm going to be marking out the darts for the waist. So I marked out 4 inches, then downward I marked it 5. And this is me just placing the back side, the upper part that I already marked initially on it. Then we'll proceed to the sleeve, and this I have my fabric already folded in 4 because I'll be cutting both sleeves together, and I'll go ahead and just mark out my length, the full length. Remember, when you measure the full length, don't forget to add about 3 to 5 inches for the puff to fall down. So this is the part I'm going to be adding the elastic. Initially it's meant to be 4, but I'm going to be marking out 15 inches. You can multiply by 2. So by the time you add your elastic rubber, it's going to be okay. Then I just from there I slant it down about 6 inches, and that slant is the part that is going to enter the armhole. Then I'll just take it down straight, exactly the way you're seeing. And that's all for this sleeve. Very simple to cut. So you can see I just marked out 15 inches where I'm going to be putting elastic, and I slanted it down by 6. Then I just carried it down slantly, exactly the way you're seeing it. Then I'll proceed by cutting out. After that, you can see what I have now. So this is the down part. I'm going to be putting gathers, then attach it to the band. And this is the band I'm going to be cutting. You know, the band is a bit lengthy, so you just take your desired measurement, and after that fold your fabric exactly the way you're seeing me doing now, because I'm cutting the both sleeve together, the band together. So I'm going to be marking out the desired length already marked out. Then I will add allowance for folding down and also for attaching the gathers part of the upper sleeve. Then don't forget about the allowance. You can add excess allowance on this part that you are going to be joining with the gathers, because when you put the gathers, it's going to occupy some spaces. So if you not put enough allowance, it's going to be tight. So put as many as enough allowance. You can put like 2 inches extra allowance. So by the time you gather everything and you mark and you wear your clothes, it's going to be fitted and not tight. So you can see exactly what I have. So I'll proceed now to cut out the lining I'm going to be using. So I have this cotton lining already, and this is the down part. Remember, when I was cutting the down part of it, I added 2 inches allowance for folding up. So I'm going to be flipping it up exactly the way you're seeing now, and I will cut out my cotton lining. You can see now. So when I'm sewing, I'm going to flip it up. Then I'm proceeding now to the sewing parts, and this is just exactly what I just cut now. I place on my machine and I'm stitching it together. After joining it together, I'm going to open it now like this. You can open to the right or to the front. Just stop stitch it, and after that still flip it to the same way you sew the down part, and sew the two sides together. After that, put your hand inside out and turn it out. You can see exactly what I have after I'm done sewing the two sides. You can see. Then I'll just open it, put and bring it out inside out. You can see what I have now. So the sewing allowance is inside. You can see this for the front side. We're going to keep that aside. Then we'll proceed to the front part, the upper part of the front of our gown. So I have my pad already cut, so I'm going to be stitching it together with my fabric. And this is me just doing it the way I want, but if you really want to get a very standing pad, padded, ensure to gum an interface on your fabric. Then you can see the way I just place it. I just stitch my pad together like this, and I'm going to be placing it exactly the way you're seeing, and I'll stitch it together. When you're stitching, just be patient and use your hand to control, because you know the two sides are not straight, so it needs you to be patient. And this is what I have after I'm done, and I did exactly to the lining. Then I'm going to be placing the lining on the fabric, making the right side face to right side. I'll stitch the neck, stitch it to the down, then don't forget to stop stitch the neck. You can see exactly what I have after I'm done. Then let's proceed to the back side of the dress, the upper back side. So this is, you know, we have two pieces because there's going to be zipper. So I'll proceed now to just join it together like this, ensuring the right side is facing the right side. So I'll take it down to the machine now and stitch it together. Exactly what I'm doing now, I'll also do to the other side of the fabric and see what I have after I'm done. And for the cotton lining, you can see I did the same thing. Then I'll proceed again to stitch it with the lining by placing the right side facing the right side, stitch the neck, stitch the zipper side and the other side. I'll leave the down part open where I'm going to be bringing it out. Don't forget to also stop stitch the next side exactly the way you're seeing me doing it. So now after that, let's proceed to the sleeve part, and this is the down part of the sleeve where we are going to be putting gathers. I've set my machine now to sew very loose stitches. You can see exactly what I have, and I'm going to be dragging it out. I have many of my tutorials have how to make a wear gathers, plinted gathers on your fabric. You can just go ahead and watch it. So I did that. Then for the other band of the sleeve, I just joined the down part together. So after I'm done putting the gathers, you can see what I have, and then I put back the band, the sleeve band now. After I'm done closing the down part, then I'm going to be placing the gathers parts on it, and I'll stitch it together. And this one also requires you to be very patient. Then this is what I have now. You can see the band and the gathers parts jointed already. Then we still have the other parts open, so I'm going to be putting my elastic band. This is how I actually put my elastic band. I like it like this, but you can use any of your method that is good for you. So I first put it inside the fabric, then fold my fabric and stitch it around, but I'm always careful while doing this so that I'm not going to be stitching on the elastic band. So you can as well drag it out, since you already stitch it at the edge, so it's not going to come out. You can drag it out just to ensure that you don't stitch on the elastic band. And this is exactly what I have after I'm done. And for the sleeve, remember the main measurements for the shoulder is about 7.5 to 8 inches. But remember, because we put rubber, elastic rubber, so we had to cut excess out. So now I'm going to be closing it up by flipping it, making the right side face the right side, and I'll also stitch it down straight. This is the band, the down part. Just mark out the exact measurements you want, the one you're already taking. Mine was about 9, so I had to close it up with 4 inches, 4.5 inches. Then for the down, for this part that is jointed with the gathers, is about 11 inches. But I'm going to be marking out about 6 point something, like maybe 0.5 or 2.5 or 6.5, because the gathers already giving it another like excess space. So if I stitch exactly that 5.5 is going to be tight, so I had to add extra 0.5 to 0.75 inches. I hope you understand what I mean. So after I'm done, I just bring it out, so you can see what I have now. So this other part now is the part I'm going to be stitching to the joining with the shoulder. Now we'll proceed to the back side. Remember, we already joined our back side with the lining, so I have the down part open. I've stitched up the down part and that shoulder area. I'll close it up now, and remember, I'm still going to be adding my zipper allowance. So this is the front part and the down part of the back. So I'll proceed. I'll put my dart on the down part of the back area, then I will join it together with the upper part of the back side. I will do the same thing for the both side. Then this is what I have. So I'll proceed now by marking out my zipper allowance. Remember, when I was cutting, I marked out about 1 inch for zipper allowance, and the slit is not overlap slit, it's an open slit. So I'm going to be showing us exactly how I do my own open slit. So after marking out my 1 inch on all the parts that I'm going to be putting my zipper allowance, so the down part, which is the new side where my slit is going to start, I'll just take it like this, straight, exactly the way you're seeing, like to infinity. Then others, you can see exactly how I did it now. So when I'm stitching, I'll stitch it down out like that. You can see now. So I did exactly what I just explained now. I already stitched it with my sewing machine. You can see the slit. Then still double stitch, even if possible triple stitch the down part, so that it's not going to be loose while working. Then I'll proceed by putting my zipper allowance. Okay, there's something I forgot to actually show, how I put my zipper allowance, and to also ensure it to waist snatch and avoid budging on the down part of the zipper. So that part that I joined the waist, the upper part and the down part, I enter deeper about 1.5 when I'm putting my zipper allowance, in order to snatch the waist and avoid budging of my zip. Then this is me after I'm done joining every other part together, the front part together. I just went ahead to mark out my exact measurement on the front parts. Thus now circumference divided by 2 this time around, not more divided by 4. So I did that for both the waist, the bust, the hip, and even the knee part straight. And I place it on my back part and I stitch it together. And for the sleeve, I'm just going to be attaching it like this, making the front part face the front part. I'll attach it straight, open the other back part, and also stitch it straight. You can see exactly this is how I'm going to stitch it. Remember, the other parts are open, so after I'm done stitching it, okay, I'm going to be showing us how I stitch now. So I will open the sleeve, making the right side face the right side. Now place it on the shoulder part or the armhole part. Remember, the cloth is off shoulder, so we still have armhole. So I'm going to attach it with the sleeve exactly the way you're seeing. Then after I'm done with this first part, I would do the same to the second part. You can see I'm doing the same thing to the second part. Then I'll stitch it together. This thing is very, very simple to do. You just have to be a bit patient while doing that. So after I'm done stitching it, you can see my armhole part is open. Then I'll put my dress very well on the sewing machine like this, and I'm going to close it up together. Please support my YouTube channel by clicking the like button, and also if you have any question, leave it down in the comment box below. I'm going to be giving answer to all your questions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please, let's go grow this channel together. Thank you. So I'm going to be closing it up exactly the way you're seeing me doing it now. And guys, we are done.